how's it going?
Hello.
Reagan here,
Haley here.
and welcome to episode number 1 of the Creative Entrepreneur Show, where we teach you how to grow your creative business, whether that be in music, writing, or something else. So welcome, and let us know where you are watching from. So this is going to be a live show, so we can get some interaction and from you, the viewers. So this is our first time doing this, so we'll probably be learning along with you how all this works, but hopefully it's going to be a fun time. And so today we're going to be talking about what it actually takes to earn a full-time, or another way of putting it, what it takes to make a living through your art as a creative, whether that's through your published books or music or any other kind of art form. All right, so yeah, go ahead and drop a comment. Make sure that you can let us know that you can hear us okay.
Yeah, it's very important that you hear us.
Yeah, making sure that we're coming through loud and clear.
Yeah, both of us. I might have to speak louder because,
Yeah,
as you can see, we are on the path to being full-time creators. We are not there yet ourselves. Otherwise, we'd have 2 mics.
we have a fancier studio. All right.
I will point out that that's our novel planning board back there.
All right, we got Buddy says, "Yo, hello."
Hey, yay! Buddy can hear us.
Awesome, that's great.
Woo-hoo.
Sweet. So, I guess we'll dive into it. So, there's a myth out there, you probably heard it, about the starving artist. Well, in this day and age, there's no longer a reason to be a starving artist. In fact, there are tons of independent writers, musicians, creatives in general that are making a living through their art, but you probably just haven't heard of them because they're still relatively small, they're still relatively niched, and we'll cover that more a little bit later.
Yep.
But so this episode, it's important before you go out to achieve this that you have a map. You know where you're going. You know what it takes to reach your goal. And that doesn't mean you might not be clear on everything you need to do. You might not know what all the obstacles are that you're going to face along the journey, but you do need to know where you're at currently and then where you need to go. You need to know point A, you need to know point B. And this is actually a biblical principle as well. I don't know if you want to read that verse.
Okay, so in Luke 14, Jesus is talking to a crowd, saying what the cost, what it will cost if you be my disciple. And so he says, for which one of you, when he wants to build a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who observe it begin to ridicule him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Or what king, when he sets out to meet another king in battle, will not first sit down and consider whether he is strong enough with 10,000 men to encounter the one coming against him with 20,000? Or else, while the other is still far away, he sends a delegation and asks for terms of peace. So then he finishes out saying, you can't be my disciple if you don't give up all your possessions. So this is a biblical principle that can be applied to every area of your life. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't, like we talked about, if you don't have a map, if you don't have a clear vision of where you're going, and then the necessary tools you need to complete it, you're going to fail.
Right. So another way of thinking about this episode is we're going to outline what is the cost. What does it take to make a living from your art? And so I don't know about you, but when I first thought about, building an author career, I kind of had the mindset of, back when I was in middle school, I had the mindset as all you have to do is just, write this really great book and then publish that book. And then if it's really good, then, tens of thousands of people are going to buy it and love it. And you're going to have all these fans, and then you'll be making a ton of money so that you can support yourself and write more books. But that's actually not.
That's not true.
Accurate.
Very rarely does someone blow up. Mm-hmm. J.K. Rowling, C.S. Lewis, J.R.R. Tolkien.
Hunger Games.
There's Hunger Games. Those are it's not a very common thing
Right. So
that happens.
You don't want that to be your goal. You don't want that to be your expectation or what you're shooting for. If that does happen, great. But that's really unlikely, and it's also not what it takes in order to make a living. You don't need to blow up in order to make a living from your art. I think that's what a lot of people still think of is it's this kind of 1 in a million shot. And so if you can't be that 1 in a million, then you're not going to make a living, and that's just not true.
And I don't know about you, but knowing that is like a huge relief. It's like, okay,
right.
So I don't have to be super popular in order to be successful.
Yeah, so we're going to cover kind of the 3 keys to making a living from your art in this episode, and also a bonus step as well. And so as we go through this, you might say, hey, that's actually easier than I thought, or you might realize it's harder than you thought. But either way, at least you'll know what the process is.
Yes.
And so it really just comes down to having 1,000 true fans to make a good living from your art. And what is a true fan? So a true fan is someone that is really bought into everything you're doing. They love everything you put out, and so they buy basically everything that you publish or create over the course of a year. So maybe over the course of a year, this true fan will spend basically $100 with you. That's a reasonable amount for someone that's like a super fan, a true fan. And if you have 1,000, do some simple math, that's $100,000 a year from just 1,000 true fans. And so that's all you need. You just need 1,000 true fans. You don't need, millions of followers, or you don't need to blow up or anything like that.
Nope.
So for the rest of this video, we're going to cover what it takes to get to 1,000 true fans. All right, any questions, go ahead and drop them below, and we'll also have a Q&A section at the end of this video. All right, so step 1, probably should have created a banner for this. So step 1 is being niched, having a niche that you are creating your art in. So I don't know if you want to talk on that.
Sure. So when we talk about being niched, there's genres within every art form. In your books, you have your science fiction, you have your dystopian, you have romance, there are millions, or there may not be millions, I don't know. There's at least hundreds of little specific genres that a book...
Right, niches within niches.
Yes, there's niches within niches, and the same goes for music and movies, and even artwork. It's the same across all boards. So what you need to do is find what niche you love, what you like to create, and I guarantee you there is a niche for you. Now, if there's not a niche, if it doesn't exist, you can create it. We actually know an author who did this herself. She created a niche. Barbara, what's her name? Hartzler. She created a niche.
But it was still within a...
Yeah, it was within another niche.
It was just kind of, yeah. So you're going to there's kind of like these big umbrella genres, like fantasy, and then you have like sub niches below those, like urban fantasy,
epic fantasy,
and then you want to put your own little unique twist on it, and that's where you can kind of get your own unique niche, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
But the reason this is important is because this is how you're going to find those super fans, because that's where the super fans kind of lies, in these really smaller niches, and it's also how you're going to stand out. It's the difference between being a small fish in a big pond, or being a big fish in a small pond. So by niching down, you can stand out, and you're not competing with basically the entire fantasy genre or the entire sci-fi genre or something like that. So you have a better chance of standing out. And this is what you see all the independent artists are doing that are making an income, is it's, whether it's writing or it's music, they're niching down, and they're creating content in a smaller niche.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you can't create content in other niches down the road, but when you're just getting started, it's much better to just stick in one area and then grow that audience. And then once you have your own audience, your own readership, your own listeningship, then you can branch into other areas.
Yeah, like I'm going to give an example of Taylor Swift here. She started out in country music, and that was where she grew her fan base. And then when she had a big enough one, she shifted her music genre, and it still worked because she was big enough that she had enough people who liked what she did. And I'm sure there's a lot of other
It's a
people
good example. Mm-hmm.
who've done that. And in fact, I know other music artists who've kind of
Right.
branched
Well, one of
in
the
other
ones,
areas.
yeah, one of the ones we'll point to, Leah McHenry, she started out in one niche and now she's kind of branched into other ones, but we'll get to that a little later. So what for making sure that your story or your music fits in a certain niche, the way you do that is you find what other artists are in that niche, what other authors, what other music artists, what other filmmakers, whatever. Who else is in that niche, and what are they creating? What kind of tropes or certain characteristics do they have in common? And then you want to use some of those, apply some of those to what you're creating. So I know this is something we talk about in Kingdom Pen too, about using tropes and the dangers of using cliches versus when you do want to use cliches. So I would say tropes are a little bit different than cliches, because a trope is more like an aesthetic or
yeah, it's kind of like almost the rules of the genre to some extent.
Right.
And if you don't have those rules in your genre, it can make
Right.
people who like that genre mad.
Right. Or if it was
or disappointed.
Right. Or if it was music, it's like certain kind of instruments that you're using or a certain drum beat or something. So it's like versus like a cliche would kind of just be more using the like exact pattern that someone else uses. Hopefully that's kind of clear. So you don't want to be cliche, but you want to use tropes and of course put your own unique spin on it. But that's kind of how you can know that you fit in that genre and you're going to appeal to the audience that's in that genre, is you apply a certain number of tropes that other creatives in that genre are using successfully.
Yeah. And if, after hearing some of these three tips, these three keys, and you're still confused, that's okay, because we are going to dive deeper into these in later episodes. It's just kind of a 30,000 foot view of what it takes.
Right, big picture.
Big picture. So don't worry, we'll get into, unless it's making complete sense in that case. Yay.
Yeah, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments.
Yeah, ask away.
All right, so that moves us on to key number 2 that all the successful independent creatives tend to have in common, is that they are building an email list. So they have an email list that they're using to build their own audience. So you're not relying on social media or just advertising or just platforms where you don't actually control the audience. They're actually building their own audience that they own and control. And that's what email gives you, because you can then reach your audience at any time you want to, because you have their email. Whoops. So that is so key. It's so foundational for really any business, right? So if you're in the marketing world, this is common knowledge for everyone. If you want to grow a successful business, you need to have an email list. But it's something that the creative world is still kind of getting wise to. You're still kind of catching up to that. But you've probably heard of this. You've probably heard of, it's possible you've heard of this, having an email list. I know there's some people refer to creating a reader magnet to get people on their email list. The same thing goes for music, is you give away something for free in exchange for an email address. So someone can give you their email address, and then you give them something of value for free, and now you have them on your email list. And then you can do this you want to use an email autoresponder tool. You don't want to just use like Gmail or something. That's not what we're talking about, because that's not actually even legal. According to spam laws, you actually have to have an email service provider, and that also gives people the option to unsubscribe at any time. And so the one we use this for Kingdom Pen. We use this for all our other businesses. We use it for our music as well.
Many. I'm not gonna
basically
mention
everything. Yeah, we use ConvertKit, and you can actually get a free version of this by going to kingdompen.org/ConvertKit. I believe hopefully I have that set up. That doesn't, wait, I probably should have checked that first. All right. Well, I know one that does work is AndromedaCoastMusic.com/ConvertKit, I think. Or no, maybe it's Orpheus Audio. I don't know. I know for one that works is Orpheus Audio.
That's Orpheus Audio. And if you're a music artist, you could benefit from this website.
Right. So that's what we use. And and it's free for up to 1,000 subscribers. You just can't send out automated emails. But if you're just getting started, you probably don't need that functionality yet either. You just build that email list so you can send out those broadcast emails to people, updating them on your progress, and also being able to deliver your freebie, whatever that might be. So if you're a writer, maybe that's like a free chapter or a free novella. So they opt in to get short story. I know we have used a free song.
Haiku, is that too short?
Probably. So we've given away a free song. That's how we built our initial email list. Let's see. I can actually share my screen and show you.
Didn't we do? Wasn't it like 5 days? 5 songs? Was it 5 songs? 5 days at Send Pop?
Well, we were originally just giving away one song, but we also have a 5-day song series on our website. So if I share my screen, I can kind of show you what it looks like.
It looks like Buddy has given us a question we can answer in the Q&A section.
Great.
Yay.
So here is what it looks like, ConvertKit. Let's see if I can make that a little bigger.
Look at all those subscribers.
I don't want to show people's email addresses. So this is ConvertKit. So then it gives you the ability to, here it shows your subscriber growth, and then you can set up different automations if you have the paid version, send broadcasts, and then you can also create what are called landing pages or forms. This is where you send people to in order to give them your freebie. So I can say create new, create a landing page, and you can see, for example, like this one right here. So you could say subscribe. I'll just zoom in actually so you can see that a little better. So if I was using this template, I could say subscribe to get our novella or the first chapter of our work in progress or something. And then here you can see they put in their name, their address. And once they fill that out, they get on your email list. And you can have it, when you go to edit this, you can set it up so that you upload the chapter, whatever it is you're giving away, or their free song, and it delivers to them right away after they sign up. So that is ConvertKit.
And there are other email marketing
Right. There's other ones
platforms.
out there.
This is just the one that we've...
Right. We've used a lot of them. We've used MailChimp. We've used Aweber. We've used ActiveCampaign. There's another one, Constant Contact I've looked at. But we haven't found any that are as good as ConvertKit because it was made specifically with creatives in mind. It was made for authors, for music artists, for bloggers, for people that are doing creative things. And so with that in mind, they've created a really great product that's very simple, very easy to use, but also very powerful. And that is our affiliate link, I should mention. So if you do end up getting the paid plan, then we'll earn a commission at no extra cost to you. All right, so email list.
Yeah, did you already touch on build a relationship and sell more?
No, so the other benefit of, or you can talk about that. You want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. So with email marketing, sometimes it can be like, oh my gosh, do I have to email these people every day? No, you set your pace. They're recommended times, but really it's up to you and up to how much your readers want to receive. And then, so then with email marketing, you have the benefit of landing in their inbox and getting to know them, and they get to know you. And then when you start building a relationship like that, they're more likely to trust you enough to actually want to check out your artwork and your books. And they'd be like, well, hey, I really like what this person has provided so far. I think I'll get their book, or I think I'll, buy some of their artwork or their music.
Right. So when people first hear of you, they might not be ready to buy something from you yet. But when you give them away something for free first, and they're on your email list where you can email them, you can send them, just personal information about what's going on with your life, or you send them updates about what you're doing with your art, and then you build that relationship with them so that now they're at the point where they're ready to buy, they know you better, and they're interested in what you're doing.
Yep.
And then, those are kind of the first two keys. It's being niched and building an email list.
And the third key that you need to be a full-time creative
is consistent volume. So that means putting out a lot of artwork, so publishing a lot and doing it consistently. So this is something that we've really learned recently. It's really kind of opened our eyes, I would say. It's kind of been kind of surprising and kind of shocking, I guess. I don't know. One of the most things that stood out to us the most is that you really need to have a lot of volume. You need to have a big backlist, as it's called,
Yes.
if you're publishing books, or just a lot of music out there, a lot of albums, in order to make a good amount of income. Now, with music, it's a little bit different because even then, people aren't buying actual music as much. So there's some other things you have to do there to make an income. But as far as writing goes, you need to have a pretty big backlist of at least like 4 published books before you can start making a real income. Because, if you think about it, 1,000 true fans spending $100 a year, if you only have one book out, how are they going to get to spending that much money with you? You need to have a lot of books published. And a certain percentage of people that buy that first book are going to move on to buy the second and the third and so on. And then once it gets to like your third or fourth book, pretty much everyone that are buying those books are going to buy all the rest of the books in the series.
Yeah.
They're into it. They're in it for the whole journey, so they're going to buy all the rest of the books. So the more books you have out there in that series, the more lucrative that series is, and the more actual income you can make. And so I was just going to go through some examples of this now. So I guess I could share my screen for this too. Of some examples here of authors that we know are doing very well for themselves. So this one author is R.E. Vance, and this is just one of his series, but you can see he has 10 books in this series, and it's also urban fantasy epic adventure, so it's a very small niche there, and he's really niched down. And again, he has a whole bunch of other series down here with tons and tons of books, and so that's volume. And he said that he writes 3,600 words a day, 5.5 days a week. So in other words, he writes 3,600 words a day for 5 days a week, and then he has a half day on the weekend. So that's a lot of words. And
that is a lot of words.
Right, you think about NaNoWriMo, right? So you try to write a short 50,000 word novel in a month, and that seems like such a big task. You just have to write, what is it, like 1,667 words?
Yeah, something like that.
A day? Well, he's basically doubling that.
Yep. He's doubling
and that. So he says he doesn't do NaNoWriMo, he does
NaNoWriMo.
Life. Or Nano Life, or whatever the acronym is. So that's what it takes, right? Again, counting the cost is you need to write a lot and consistently. You need to build in that habit. And that's why if you go to kingdompen.org, the main kind of guide that we feature is the Becoming an Unstoppable Writer guide, which is filled with really great tips on how to build in these writing habits to become a consistent writer that can create this kind of volume. Now, another example is Chris Fox. He has a lot of really great books too on building an author career.
Yeah, he does.
That's where we've kind of got a lot of the stuff that we're implementing and we're teaching. And so definitely recommend his books. But then as far as his fiction books go, again, he's doing the same thing. He's writing tons of books. Here he has the Magitech Chronicles, which is 7 books. So kind of gone are the days of the trilogy, right? You don't really want to be thinking about the trilogy so much. Obviously, that's what Hollywood likes to do for movies. But as far as indie authors go, you don't want to just stick with a trilogy. You want to have a lot of books in mind in a series. And he says that he writes 5,000 words a day or edits 10,000 words a day, and he does that 7 days a week. So that's even more intense. And so he talks about how it's not uncommon for him to write an entire first novel or a first draft of a novel in 13 days. Right? So think about how many books you could publish if you're getting the first draft done in 13 days.
That almost seems unbelievable, but because I know I've read several of his books and I like them. They're definitely different, but
right. Because again, he's niched too,
he's
right?
Very niche.
He's niched, and he's building an email list too. He gives away.
I am on his email list.
And he gives away a free book for his reader magnet. And so, you need to be publishing multiple books a year. Or if you're putting out songs, putting out multiple songs a year, or at least a full album once a year. Another example is Barbara Hartzler that we've talked about.
Yeah, I mentioned
And
her earlier.
she's fairly new. Just looking on Amazon. But she has these 4 books out, and let's just look at the dates. So the first book came out this year, July 8th. The second book was August 24th. So basically less than 2 months later. And the third book was October 5th. So basically a month later, a little longer than a month. And then the fourth one was January 11th. So a couple months later. So she's publishing a book every month to 2 months. That's pretty frequent. And I'm sure she's going to have another one coming out pretty soon. So publishing a lot and publishing, frequently is kind of seems to be the pattern for these authors that are, either doing really well or actually making a full, living through their writing. And so then if you look at music, on the music side, so Leah McHenry's kind of one we pointed out, and she has, I think, 5 full-length albums published. And she's, of course, built an entire business around her music, which is something we're going to actually talk about as our bonus tip. And she's making multiple 6 figures a year from her music.
And she's a homeschooling mom with 5 kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
and she doesn't tour either.
She doesn't tour. Yep, does it all online.
Tour.
And then another independent music artist that I know puts out a lot of music. He's a producer. His name is Hyperbits. He talks about how he puts out like 50 songs a year. In one of his webinars that I attended. So yeah, if you're independent, you kind of have to change your thinking of just the publishing, 1 book a year, right? And
now, if that's your pace, that's your pace.
Mm-hmm.
That's your pace. That is your pace, and it will just take you a little bit longer to get there.
Right. So yeah. Again, we're just looking at what it is that the people that we know are successful. What are they doing?
Because I did want to point out with Barbara, I know that we had learned that this is a strategy with publishing the 4 books, and then you slow down with the rest of the ones in your series. So there's different strategies within each release.
Yeah, so once you get that initial volume up, then you can slow down. So that's what Leah's done too with her music. She didn't put out any new music this past year because she's grown such a big business, and she's actually create a side business selling candles, which are like fantasy, like Lord of the Rings themed candles, basically, because that's kind of her music genre.
I think they're mythical candles.
Yeah, mythical candles. So that's her, right? So she's very niched with her music, right? So she's like Celtic metal, fantasy metal, something like that. So it's very small niche, 2 things that you wouldn't think really go together, but. You probably never heard of her, but she's doing very well, and she's doing very well. Yeah, and her candle business is now like a $1 million business, I think. It's closing in on it. So
it's blown up.
That's the thing. Once you leads us into our 4th kind of bonus tip, which is you create an entire business around what it is you're creating. So you have multiple streams of income. So you could have merchandise, like you see that with Leah. You can, if you're a writer, maybe you create different T-shirts or mugs or different just things that your audience would recognize from your stories and would love to have. So kind of apparel merchandise.
I mean, just think of how many different Star Wars paraphernalia there is.
Right.
I mean, it's never ending.
Right. Yeah. So once you have those super fans, right, they'll buy just about anything from you. And then it's just a matter of you putting things out there for them that they would love to have, that would be valuable to them. And then there's also just covering your bases with selling digital and physical. So if you're having books, make sure you have ebooks, make sure you have an audio book, make sure you have a physical book. So it's like different types of audiences. Like some people are just audiobook listeners, and if you don't have that, then you're losing revenue there.
I would have if they had an audiobook.
And same thing with music. People are mostly buying digital, but there's physicals coming back with vinyl and even tape now, so you might want to consider getting into that.
That's so crazy. Tape cassettes are coming back.
So
get your pencils ready.
Right. And music's a little different, so it's not, there's a lot of similarities no matter what creative business you're in, but there is some definitely
there's some
specific differences. Yeah.
One thing we did not mention when it comes to creating consistent content is you need to be willing to be determined and to persevere, because there are going to be days, even weeks, where you're like, I don't want to do this. And that's probably when you need to dig your heels in and do it even more.
Right. So, yeah, in order to create that consistent volume, you have to master
a whole episode on that.
Yeah, you have to master consistency. So that's a whole other subject.
I just wanted to mention that. There's qualities that you need.
That might sound daunting, but you can get to the point where it just comes naturally to you.
Again, this is a 30,000 this is the 30,000 foot view. This is an overview of what it takes. You can build up to these things and you can go at your own pace, and it's just going to take you longer. We're simply giving you the proven system that people have used repeatedly in each of these genres, in each of these little areas, all the different creative areas. Just lost my train of thought there.
This is a live video, so yeah.
So there's going to be that, sorry.
Yeah, so in other ways that you can build out that business and create multiple streams of income is having a fan club. So you could have like a Patreon or just like a separate fan club where people can interact with you and get behind the scenes or bonus content. And then teaching. That's also a really great way to bring in another stream of income.
I think that's what we're doing.
Yeah, we're teaching with Kingdom Pen. And I know for sure Leah McHenry, she has a whole side business teaching how to grow music income.
Of course, Chris Fox does.
And that's even more successful. That's like a multi-million-dollar company. And then Chris Fox, he has a whole separate series teaching how to grow a writing business. So
even Barbara.
Right, and you don't have to do it. Yeah, you don't have to do it that way. You don't have to like sell courses or write books on it. You could just do like personal coaching or something like that. Whatever you want to do, that's another way to grow your income is to teach.
So there's options.
So those are the three major key steps to growing an income and making a living through your art. Is to, number one, you are niched. You aren't trying to go too broad. You find a very specific audience that you want to write books for, and you do that for a while before moving on to something else.
Don't go wide, go deep.
And then number two is building that email list so that whenever you put out something new, you have that audience that you can control. You can, first off, just keep your brand in their mind, whereas they might forget about you if you're not sending them regular emails. And when you have something new, you already have that built-in audience that can buy your book, that can go leave reviews and help your book shoot up the Amazon charts.
And
number three is then, creating that consistent volume, continuing to publish new content, and putting out a lot of content and doing that consistently. So those are the three keys. And the bonus is creating multiple streams of income, selling other things around just your art to kind of expand your business. So that's our show. And again, definitely go to kingdompen.org and grab our guide on how to become an unstoppable writer. That will really help you with the consistent volume aspect, which I think might be the most challenging of these three tips. So definitely grab that if you haven't already. That's a really helpful, really great guide. And we'll see you in a future video. But right now we are going to go into the Q&A time. And so we'll answer any questions that people have. So here's Buddy's question.
Go ahead and read it. So I have a question that ties into networking. Networking is really important for individual creative entrepreneurs. What would you say are some key ways of networking where it's actually helpful?
That's a really good question.
This is a very good question.
So
very good.
So networking is definitely another great way to grow your following. I know this is really big for music artists, and it's something that we're wanting to get into more ourselves, and it's something that Peter Hollins talks about a lot. And he does this really well, is collaborating with other people in your niche, right? So again, having that niche. Let me take this banner off. So finding other people in your niche and collaborating with them. So if it's music, it would be like doing a song together or doing a music video together. If it's writing, you could write a book together. I know a lot of people are kind of wary of that. But another way could just be promoting to each other's email lists. Maybe you trade shout outs or something, or if you have like a YouTube channel or something, or you're creating other kind of content, it's, if you're teaching, you can interview them, or just kind of, being creative and working, finding ways that you can work together. And so
there's also joining Facebook groups specifically for the niche that you're in, and then getting to know people, being active in the group, building, relationships with other people within that group. And so, that's another avenue.
So start with really figuring out who is your ideal reader, who's your ideal listener, and finding out what other people do they really like. And you can do that by surveying your audience, or just like going to Amazon and seeing things that other people buy, that are related.
That's a nice little.
And then you start reaching out to those people and say, hey, how can we collaborate, or give them your idea of, can we trade shout outs or something like that. And so also just building that relationship with them first can be really helpful as well. So leaving them a review, or if you're on their email list, you reply to one of their emails.
Yeah, replying to people's emails is really big. So
basically they kind of know who you are first before you reach out to them. That's kind of our main tips. But yeah, that's something that we definitely need to do.
Yeah, that's the online. That's the online version. Obviously, there's in person, but
all three of these tips are something we need to do better ourselves. As we were doing this research, was kind of convicting, because like, oh man, we need to be doing a lot better job at this ourselves. But these are the three things. That we're
just to clarify, we're on this journey as well. We're on this journey as well, but we know that this works because we've seen it over again and again, and so this is kind of us.
Yeah. And we've gotten coaching from people that have done it. So
yes.
All right. Great question. Any other questions? Feel free to drop them in the comments. So we'd love to see what you guys are thinking about this training, because it's kind of a lot to throw.
Yeah, this is a lot. This is kind of a lot. And like we said, this is just, what you need to think about when you start. If you when you want to be serious, maybe right now you're thinking, I don't want to be that serious, and you can totally do it casually. You can totally do it casually. It's up to you. It's totally up to you, and that's the great thing about doing it online, is because when you're doing it in person, there's kind of more of a physical demand. But if you're doing it online, it's way more easy. Way easier. Not easy. It's just a little bit easier than in person.
What would they be doing in person?
Like book tours, live tours, music tours. I don't know. Going out and actually meeting people, which is kind of hindered by that thing that has affected the world. I don't know if we can mention that on here.
I think we can.
COVID, pandemic. So yeah.
All right. Doesn't look like we have any more questions. Let us know, though. Go ahead and leave a like if this was helpful, or if this was horrible and confusing, you can go ahead and leave a dislike.
Yep. Let us know. Yeah. Share your feelings.
Yeah. So
find your opinions
and tell them to us. All right. Thanks for watching. It's great having you guys here, and like we said, we're going to be doing this show every week, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So be sure to tune in and let us know in the comments below. Question of this video: what else would you like to see us cover in future episodes of the Creative Entrepreneur Show? Yes. All right. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.